What's up guys, it's Jordan here from SwitchWatch with today's review of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Before I get into this review, I just want to give you a heads up and a preemptive apology. I am sick, very sick. And so this review isn't going to be my finest in terms of production. I mean, I probably shouldn't have done this review, but I know you guys are excited about it. I want to know how it is, so I couldn't help myself. I just had to do it for you. And I stand by my views in this review wholeheartedly, sick or not, but I played most of this while propped up in bed, playing in handheld, so there is a slight lack of footage variety. Anyways, enough of me, let's get on with it. There's no doubt in my mind that Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening was a massive part of many people's childhood and education in gaming. Many people started on the Game Boy, and possibly the ultimate game on that system was Zelda Link's Awakening. Whether you agree it's the best game on the system or not, you can't deny that it's a game that would have been fit to grace the home consoles of the era. It was just that ambitious for Nintendo's little monochrome handheld. And when the HD remake was announced, I can only imagine the unbelievable gasps and jubilation from an entire generation who first came to know Zelda, Nintendo, and perhaps gaming at all thanks to this title. Let's see if it lives up to that. The story for Link's Awakening is kept simple enough, even for a Zelda game where that hasn't really been the focus in the top-down 2D games. Following on from his previous heroics, Link has set sail to hone his skills. But during a particularly bad storm, his ship is wrecked and he's washed ashore on Koholint Island and taken in by Marin and Talon. Not wanting to rest up too much, Link sets out to get off the island, but can only do so by awakening the wind fish. That's the basic premise, and while the story never gets to the forefront too much, it does have its sweet little spots and lovable characters. It's perhaps the first game in the series to explore a plot, as even A Link to the Past was basically just a good versus evil thing, rescue the maidens, etc. These days, it's not exactly a fantastic story, but it is very serviceable and interesting. Now we all know what Link's Awakening is about. It was always a very by-the-books interpretation of the Zelda formula, but not necessarily in a bad way. It was excellent despite the limitations of the original hardware. You enter dungeons, fight monsters, solve puzzles, traverse the overworld, and so on. If you played A Link to the Past, Minish Cap, A Link Between Worlds, and so on, you know what this is all about. It's pure distilled 2D Zelda, almost at its finest in terms of design and originality. How is this release different? Well, it's not really. Some of you will be disappointed, some of you will be happy, but this is definitely a one-to-one remake. It's almost exactly like the original, aside from presentation, visual and audio, and some major quality of life improvements. But it's still very much the Link's Awakening you all know and love in terms of content. Dungeons are the same, puzzles are the same, honestly it's the same game. The small additions like fancier minigames, extra hearts and Dampe's dungeon creator bolster the package slightly, but count as minor distractions rather than something compelling. The dungeon creator especially, which is touted as being the biggest content boost, kind of falls flat for me. It's fine enough as you pick and choose different dungeon pieces to fulfill requirements, but it just comes out as underdeveloped or tacked on. It has something there, but probably needed to be expanded or be less restrictive. Zelda Maker, it is not. It may be greedy of me, but I really wish more could have been done to add to the game, especially due to the constraints of the original. But then again, many consider Link's Awakening to be one of the best in the series and additions unnecessary, or even going to the extreme to say that it would have been disrespectful to the original masterpiece. I get that, but more could have been done for sure. What does make this remake worth it is the quality of life additions. Link's Awakening has always been a classic game, but came with perhaps the most flaws in the series besides the first two games. Equipment management was always a massive pain in the arse, and you could only utilize 2 buttons in a game that loved to make use of as many different items as possible. There's more item usage here than perhaps in any Zelda game before or since. It meant you constantly had to enter the menu to switch things out. Now, because many of the items are connected to the plethora of buttons available on the Nintendo Switch, you barely have to change anything at all. Your Pegasus boots, sword, shield, and power glove are all spread out around the controller, and only things like bombs and boomerangs need to be switched out. Basically, the weapons. It's an absolute godsend and transforms the game. Sure, later dungeons do require you to go into the menus more and more, but this time it's very bearable. It's just a smoother experience overall, not only because of that, but also a few tweaks too, like the fact that there are no screen transitions. It's now entirely open, with no loading in the overworld. Warping is now easier too, and bypassing text is now no longer a chore. Link's Awakening was a fairly plodding game, but now it's seamless, it's free. That does come at a cost though. Due to all these refinements, no pulling up menus, no screen loading, and no long unskippable text, it's actually a shorter game for it. What was around 15 hours to see the credits is now less than 10, or pushing slightly over it if you're new or just want to smell the roses. It's easier too, thanks to the equipment as well as far better movement from your character. You'll find yourself dying a lot less here than you would in the original. Not that it was a hard game to begin with. In fact, Link's Awakening was perfectly judged and was the best entry point for the series without it being overly easy. That's very much the case here. If you have a kid who you want to introduce to Zelda, this is it. Now you might think that labeling it as baby's first Zelda derogatory, but that's not. You're getting an excellent, well-designed game that's balanced perfectly and shows everything you need to know or learn about Zelda. It's the perfect introduction. For me, one of the most welcome additions is that of Hero Mode, which basically makes things a bit harder, especially when it comes to health regeneration. Enemies and grass will not give you extra hearts. It turns what is an easy game into something far more tactful, and it's a welcome mix-up for those who have already experienced what the game has to offer originally. The visual presentation, well, I know there was a slight backlash when originally revealed. The miniature doll-like style was off-putting to some, and perhaps not what people had hoped for or even what our imaginations conjured up when playing the original game. But then again, the Zelda series has never feared to venture into an alternative art style. Wind Waker, A Link Between Worlds, and even Breath of the Wild with its cell shading probably wasn't what people were originally hoping for, but have all become adored over time. Sometimes grittier, realistic graphics don't age well. I mean, just look at Twilight Princess. As much as I like that game, it's just ugly these days. I personally love what they've done here. Not only the art style, but the colors as well. Plus, the out-of-focus areas, out of your field of vision, gives a very dreamlike appearance. I mean, that's genius. This is a game that will hold the test of time. It will still look amazing 20 to 30 years later, just you wait. Performance was an issue during previews of the game. Many people were concerned that the frame rate stuttered and tanked at times, which is something very uncommon for a Nintendo game, especially one of this surface level simplicity. How's it turned out for the release? Well, bad. Really, really bad. I am completely shocked that Nintendo allowed this game to be released in this state. Frame dips are noticeable, constant, and very distracting. This is not like Nintendo at all. Sure, some games like Breath of the Wild had a few issues, but this is not Breath of the Wild by a long shot. Yeah, it's beautiful and has some great effects and lighting, but there is no way this should be pushing the hardware like this. Obviously there could be a patch on release day, but I haven't heard anything. You guys know me by now, I'm generally fairly forgiving about small frame rate issues, but this is just inexcusable in its current state. The audio has been fully redone with a lot to live up to considering the unbelievable work that was put into the original composition and the magnificent they brought out of those little Game Boy speakers. Lots of charm has been added with even some vocal effects, and it's really brought the bloops and bleeps to life. A small issue was that originally the tracks were often very, very short loops, perhaps only a few seconds long on occasions. And I don't think this remake has done anything to expand upon the original compositions with the personality that they've added. While many people talk about the controversial aspect being the visuals, for me, I'm seeing more people concerned about the price. On the eShop it's $60 in the US and £50 on the UK one, a full fat price tag, and rightly so for a full fat game. It's 10 hours of delight, ingenuity and charm. Yes, of course, you can find indie games that go for a lot less and offer almost as much quality and content like Hollow Knight for example, but you ain't gonna see Nintendo make a new Zelda game and release it for £10. That's not gonna happen, even if it's a remake. I think more could have been added to solidify that price tag, but it is what it is, a Zelda game, a quality one at that. You can buy it physically, of course, for a smidge cheaper, and it will no doubt drop a small amount in the coming months. If you're in the UK and you want to support us while you're buying this game, you can use affiliate links found in the description below. Sorry, American friends, we still haven't cracked affiliate links for that side of the pond yet. But But you can support the show by liking and commenting. Honestly, reading your comments really spurs us on massively. And in a similar manner, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new here. We would love to have you join the SwitchWatch community for all our Nintendo Switch related content. You know you want to. Overall, Zelda Link's Awakening is an absolutely fantastic game that's been reimagined better than ever could have been thought so in terms of the audio and visual presentation. I know many people will lament the slim picking of additions to what is still at heart an original Game Boy game. I get it, and I'm leaning towards that sentiment too, but when other one-to-one remakes have gotten a free pass from me, I have to think about why this one is making me stop and reflect. I don't know, maybe because of its original simplicity, but then again, it was awesome then and it's awesome now. If you want to pop a $5 onto your 3DS to get the Game Boy Color version, go ahead, but I don't think I could ever go back to that after playing this one, and I think that answers that quandary. It's still a stellar game and perhaps the best entry point into the series for anyone young or old. It's just a shame that the performance is a disgrace for a flagship first-party title that's on the more basic side too. It's crazy and needs sorting out, but looking past that, Link's Awakening may perhaps be the quintessential Zelda game in terms of design and playability. I would give it higher if it wasn't for the performance, an 8.5 out of 10. Alright guys, now be sure to head over to watch some of our recent videos. I'm looking into trying to start a new series showing off every physical Switch game releasing every week, and also looking at important import titles. And James is looking to do a weekly bargains video, so head over to watch those 3 so we can get your support and see that if it's what you want or not. I've been a very sickly Jordan from SwitchWatch, and I'll see you next time when I'm hopefully feeling a lot better. Take care.